Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Juan the Yarn Addict and I'd like to welcome you to another session of Whipping It with Juan. Whether you're new here or you're returning back to the channel, thank you so much for checking out today's video. As I always say, these Whipping It with Juan sessions are sessions where I sit back, I work on my whips while I talk to you about all the things. I become your crochet buddy for about 45 minutes to an hour, so if that is of interest to you, please sit back and enjoy the video. Before we get started, please remember to hit the like button, consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already, and then of course share the video. I would definitely appreciate the support. So as I always ask for these sessions of Whipping It with Juan, what is on the hook? And for this session, I have two whips. The first one is my lasso loops throw. This is the continuation of the project. So I've done the tutorial, I've written the patterns, I've done all the things. And so here we have the continuation. So I'm going to continue working on this until it grows to 40 inches by 40 inches. So that's the front and here is the back. Tons of texture on both sides, lots of loops and all the things. Super, super nice. And up until this morning, I was working this project up with a 6mm US letter J prim hook. For some reason, I've been getting some friction, and I know the tricks and tips and all the things, but I decided to switch hooks just to see if I had better luck with another hook. And it turns out that I am working up this project much smoother with this hook here. This is a Leto workshop hook from the Ukraine. This is a 6mm hook, like butter. It's just sliding right in and out and doing all the things. So I'm going to continue working the rest of this project up with this hook. Okay? So the second project that I have here for this session of Whipping It with Juan is my vintage Spectrum corner to corner blanket. So this is where we are at so far. There we go. Let me get the yarn around there. Okay. So here it is. Vintage Spectrum corner to corner. And so there's a whole story behind this. I lost it twice. And during one of the times where I found it, I had Mexicana yarn striped right in the middle of this. And it was an old ball of Mexicana yarn. And I said to myself at the time, well, it's good, it's fine. It's not discontinued, but it's an old ball of yarn. And then I worked further along and I said, you know what, that's really not sitting right with me because the rest of the yarn here is discontinued vintage variegated yarn, and that's kind of the theme of the project. So I frogged everything all the way back to the beginning and recrocheted it without the Mexicana yarn, and here we are. So I'm currently working with this color right here. I don't know the name of it, but it looks nice. That's what it looks like worked up. And I am using my 6mm US letter J prim hook for this project. So in the event that I manage to somehow finish this little ball of yarn during our session, I have backup. So I do have some additional colorways here that we could consider. So this is called Sage Mary. I only know this because of a recent Facebook Marketplace haul, and that came with that haul. So Sage Mary might go on next. We have some green tones here. And we have this colorway here. I do remember this. This is called Beach Bikini. Very nice. I think it's going to be kind of bright, but that's okay. No rhyme, no reason. So again, we have a few colorways here. What's this? This is called Crayon. Red Heart Kids in the colorway Crayon. All right. So that's what I have for this session of Whipping It with Juan. I do have my coffee in tow in the Buc-ee's mug right here. And I do have my Dunkin' Donuts hazelnut coffee with caramel macchiato creamer. Steaming hot. I love it. Okay, so let's get to work. Let's see here. Where is the loop? It's right here. And then Leto wood. Leto workshop, not wood. Leto workshop. So I did a collaboration with them last year. And I have to tell you, you know, I really enjoy these hooks. I don't use them as often because of my prim hooks, but when the project calls for it, it really does come in handy. So I always say there's always a hook for a certain project, you know? Anyway, I'm really enjoying this. It is an adjustment compared to the prim hooks, the cadence and the way you hold your hook and everything. There is a slight difference, but once you get into the groove of it, it's perfect. Anyway, so as I said, I'm looking to work this up to 40 inches by 40 inches. Now, when I purchased this yarn, I purchased it in a sleeve of 10 balls. I'm on number 4. By the time I get this to 40 inches by 40 inches, I may have 3 balls left. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to do with that yarn. I may just put it in the donation box for share yarn. And if you're not familiar with what that is, every single month on my channel, I take donated yarn from viewers. I show it on the channel. We all collectively decide if it's going to be misfit yarn or share yarn. And then at the end of the month, I divide it all up and then we do giveaways and we give it all back to you guys. I combine that with Facebook Marketplace hauls. I pull yarns from stash that I'm looking to get rid of. And so you guys, in essence, help me, help you, help us. So yes. So the yarn that I have for this project, whatever's left over, more than likely will go into the share yarn for the month. Hopefully I will have this done sometime in August, only because there's only a few days left in July. I believe it's the 27th or 28th of July, so only a few days left, and I have entirely too many WIPs on the hook to commit to having this done before the end of the month. I'm almost finished my birthday blanket. I think I'm going to have it done on time. Worst case scenario, August 1st, but I think I'm going to be able to make it. I'm trying to decide whether or not I should have a gray frame for the blanket. So if you've seen it once, you've probably seen it 100 times. It's the discontinued vintage variegated yarn, Red Heart with Love in the colorway Fruit Punch. Here it is. It's this yarn right here. And then I have a gray solid going in between so many rows or rounds. So I'm trying to decide whether or not if we should put that charcoal yarn on the edge, which I think I might. I'm not sure. It just depends on what it looks like when I get closer to the end. So I only have a few skeins left. I've been working very hard on that, by the way, and it doesn't grow fast at all. I feel like it grows by 1/4 inch per round. And when the blanket grows and it's big, that 1/4 inch feels like nothing, you know? The other day I spent 4 hours nonstop crocheting on that blanket and it only grew by 2 inches. I mean, it is what it is, right? I'm the one who chose the stitch. Of all the patterns and all the stitches out there, I chose the moss stitch. Yep. But to be fair, the blanket is pretty huge. So I'm very happy about that at the very least. So right now I am on the single crochet chain 2 single crochet round, which for me, you would think it would be like the fastest round. It would be the round like the funnest, but no. I like the twins in the stitch round. It's the part that comes after this. So I'm basically setting up the round for the twins. And at first I had to ask myself, Juan, how did you come up with the name for this blanket? I had to really think about that because of the way that the stitches are constructed. There is the one round where we do the combo stitch, right? There's a stitch where you're coming down and you're wrapping your yarn around all the stitches and then you're bringing it back up. It's almost like a lasso, you know? So the movement makes sense, but yeah, lasso loops, and then the light bulb went off and I said, it has to be it. And there it is. And so now, like, every time I think about it, I'm like, that's pretty awesome, you know? Naming a blanket after the motion of the crochet hook. So good. So the vintage Spectrum corner to corner blanket that I finally found, it was lost twice, as I mentioned earlier. I could not find it. It took, I want to say, 2 hours of going through bins and bags and things in order for me to find it. And when I found it, I said, Juan, you should have known that you put it here. Yep. I know I'm not the only one in that boat where, like, you go to do your organized chaos, you put things where you know you're going to be able to find them, and then you lose it. And then when you go to find it, you're like, oh, I remember putting this here. Why did I lose it? I knew it was here. Yep, that was totally me. And it's probably, actually, it's not going to be the last time that that happens. Just because of the way I keep myself chaotically organized. First of all, I'm not a planner. You know, I'm not that type A planner type personality. I'm definitely a type B, but I've grown smarter over the years. Since I know I'm not the planner, it's best to surround yourself with planners, you know? But when they're not around, yep, all the things happen. So it's perfectly okay, you know? I do have the calendar. I do have the spiral bound book. I have the cork board. I have the whiteboard. I just don't take the time out of my day to actually use them, because as soon as something comes off the hook, I'm like, I have to put something else on the hook. Like, or I need to pick up another project, or I need to go check out this new yarn, or I need to go fix this or do that. It's always something. I think I would be better organized if I prioritized and just figured out, okay, what's A, what's B, what's C, and then in the future, when an A comes along while you're still in C, stop doing C and go to A right then. Don't finish C first, stop C, and then go to A, if that makes any sense. At least that's like what I'm coming up with in my head. I can't make it sense. I can't make it make sense any other way. So there's that. Anyway, I'm really trying with the gesturing of the hands. I can't stop it for some reason. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that I use sign language on a day-to-day basis. And so I'm always using my hands to, like, explain things, describe things. And so, yeah, sitting here doing podcast episodes and whipping it with wands and things, I find myself doing this. I'm gesturing, I'm moving my hands, and I'm not really paying attention to my work. But it's one of those things where it's just going to have to be what it is, you know? Because I'm always going to use sign language, and I'm always going to be gesturing out of habit. So I'm growing to accept it. Now I have to figure out at what point am I going to stop this project and jump over to the next one, because I really want to get that little ball done for this session, so that if I decide to bring it back for another session, it's probably 99% certain that's coming back to another session. I want to be able to pick up another color and start fresh with another color, you know? But I also know how important this is to get done. I have this personal goal to get this done by the podcast episode so that I can present it as a finished object. Which, by the way, my finished object pile is growing. I thought to myself, okay, Juan, you're doing these Tuesday challenges. You're clearly, you're clearly finishing projects. You have FOs. But are those the FOs that you need to bring to podcast episodes? And to that, I say no. If I've already shown it, I don't have to show it again on another day. It's done. So if that's the case, what are the other FOs that I can have done for the podcast episode? So behind the scenes, I have been crocheting away, doing all the other things and not really showing them. it's been a few weeks since I did a podcast episode, so we're due. I said to myself before that I wanted to do one a week because I wanted my channel to have like 100 podcast episodes, 100 whipping it with Juans and all the things, but just because of scheduling and things, it's not going to happen, which is fine. But I also said to myself, I didn't want to rush a podcast episode for the sake of having one. So if I'm going to do it, I want it to be robust. I want to have finished objects. I want to have new WIPs on the hook to talk about. I want to talk about, recent releases of patterns and, features and things like that. So, yeah, I'm not going to rush the podcast episodes if there's really no quality content to present. I will always have something to talk about, but I want to have a list of things. I feel that's the point of a podcast episode, to just have like an agenda to discuss, start at the beginning, do your things, and then finish up, and then you're done, So stay tuned for a podcast episode. I'm well on my way. I have a finished object pile that's growing, and then I have some new WIPs on the hook that I haven't even talked about yet. Very excited about it. So I'm waiting for a podcast episode to talk about those things, So I'm very curious about everyone's interest in those podcast episodes, because I do get a lot of positive feedback from them. I'm very curious to know, for the audience that listens or watches the Whipping It with Juans, like, how interested are you in those podcast episodes? Like, are you interested in looking at finished objects and works in progress and new patterns and things? Or are you the type that just, if you need to know, you'll look for it and find it without a podcast episode? I'm very curious, because I found myself at one point or another on both sides of that fence. I didn't realize how comforting listening to a podcast episode was until I actually heard one. Before that, I really didn't have a need to listen to it because I didn't really know what it was. So, yeah. Once I figured out the things, I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely love to crochet listening to that. It keeps me mentally in the fiber realm, if that makes any sense. And I do have some really, really awesome podcasters that I listen to on the knitting side. I find that there are many, many, many podcasters on the knitting side that spend lots of time talking about pattern ideas, or, just patterns in general, and then what modifications they're making to their projects and why they're making those modifications, the yarn that they chose, why they chose that yarn. And yeah, they dig very deep into their projects for the most part, at least the ones that I watch. And then there are some that I just really enjoy the banter. So yeah, I will drop a list in the show notes of like my top 3. I'll put because I watch a lot of them, but I'll put my top 3 in the show notes. And if you're interested in the knitting podcast episodes of these channels, feel free to subscribe to their channels. But I really enjoy them a lot. And also with me and my knitting journey, it helps facilitate the growth in that way, because I'm learning different words, I'm learning different techniques just by listening and watching when they do demonstrations. So it's super, super nice. But as for crochet, like, I am trying to be one of those channels where I have a podcast episode where it's got all the things in it, but you're walking away from that podcast episode with a whole bunch of information. Now, what you do with that is completely up to you. It could literally just be for entertainment purposes, and I love that. But if it's just an episode where I'm doing finished objects and works in progress, at least you're up to date with what's going on here on the channel. So Yeah, I like that for us. Especially since I have lots of things on the hook anyway, you know? So, and I battle with myself all the time about this age-old question, and I've asked it many, many times, and I think I finally came up with a decision. How many WIPs are too many WIPs? You know, and I've had many different systems in place to help me stay organized with WIPs and all the things. I had people suggest, you know, keep 7 WIPs, one for each day of the week. Keep 12 WIPs, one for each month of the year. And I'm now at a place where as long as I have an organization system for my WIPs, I'm okay with not keeping myself at a limit. As long as I'm able to maintain organization. The minute I lose that organization, I have to stop with the WIPs and just focus on turning them into FOs. So that being said, I'm currently at max capacity. I'm not interested in putting anything else on the hook, and that includes what I already have started behind the scenes that I haven't talked about yet. So yeah, I have no issues saying I'm at the ceiling. So once I have some finished objects, which I do have finished objects, that's the thing. So once I have more finished objects, I will then begin to put new WIPs on the hook. It's just going to give me motivation to like focus and get the stuff done, you know? That birthday blanket and the Annie M blanket, I think, could potentially be my 2 longest running WIPs. And I don't want that for me again. So like, I don't mind a couple months here, 6 months here, but over a year for me is entirely too long because I just don't like knowing that it's sitting there not being worked on, you know? All right, so now I'm at the row where we do the twins. Love that. That took a minute to go around the blanket. Well, it didn't help that I kept stopping. I kept stopping because, you know, I have to gesture at all the things. And so now, hold on, let me go back to this hook for a second. Let me see something. Maybe it was just that stitch. I'm not sure. But for that combo stitch, that wooden hook was perfect. I'm not sure. Maybe it's the humidity in the air. It's very humid here. And I do have the air conditioner on, but even with that on, it's still very, very humid. But yeah, this project here is not much of a yarn eater, I have to say. I'm very happy about that. So the yarn's going pretty far, all things considered. I'm trying to get my hands to adapt working the prim again. It's been a second. My hand got very quickly used to working with the Leto Workshop hook. But yeah, so I do like the colors in this yarn. It does remind me of like a sunset, kind of like a summer sunset. I do like it. But yeah, like I said, with the yarn that's left over, I'm just going to gift to the channel as share yarn. I have other striped yarn. I need to work that first before I dig back into this Pato yarn. I don't mind it at all. It's very pretty yarn. But this came at a time where I was just itching to get a thicker yarn on the hook for Boggy Creek, and yeah, I went to this. I'm very happy that I did. I got this from hobbyrocks.co.uk, and I'm telling you right now, if shipping didn't skyrocket, I would have more than likely placed an order for more of this yarn before it went out of stock. But our postal system just is insane right now. And I mean, that goes without saying. I'm sure that in other countries, they're having the same issue. Maybe not all the countries, but some of the countries, you know? So, that's another reason why I'm like, you know what? Let me just work with what I have and see how far it goes, and then that's it, you know? Now, there are some companies overseas that offer free shipping, but you have to spend so much money first. But that is another avenue that could be visited if absolutely necessary. But postage is just expensive everywhere nowadays, in my opinion. All right, so let's see. I do like that a lot. The way those colors fall, super nice. Very random. I'll show you. Super, super nice. Okay, so I will work until the end of this row, and then I'm going to hop over to my Vintage Spectrum corner to corner. I'm very excited to get that back on the hook. And the last yarn that I have on this project, it feels like Dazzle. It feels like there's nylon in it, and it is super, super soft and smooth. Of course, there's acrylic in it, but it feels like Dazzle. And I can't rule that out for sure because I don't have a ball band. One can only guess, you know? But at any rate, regardless of what it is, it's going on the project. Okay. Come on. We're almost there to the corner. This round here with the 2 doubles and the combo stitch rounds are the rounds where a lot of this yarn just flies off the skein, and I like that. I said to myself originally, fun fact, this was not a Boggy Creek blanket. This was going to be for the house. But I decided, what fun would it be for those kids to have a blanket with all the colors? This just screams like a kid's blanket, you know? So, yeah. I decided at the 13th hour it's going to be for the kids. All right. So let's hop over to this one. Where did I put that hook? Okay. There we go. All right. Coffee break. I forgot to ask. I always wait until like halfway through. How are all of you guys? How are you? I hope you're good. I should ask that in the beginning, but I always tell myself that when people come to watch these Whipping It with Juan sessions, you're either in it for the long haul, you're listening from beginning to end, or you listen for about that long and then you log off and you go do the other things. So I keep telling myself I need to make a better habit of asking you all how you are in the beginning of the video instead of halfway through, because for those who do not watch the entire time, they may think that I never ask you guys how you are. Which, I mean, it's understandable because, you know, if I only watched the Whippin' It's for like 20 minutes or so and I never heard the question, I would just assume that it's never asked. So, yeah. So there is that. And finally, we have this on the hook. So good. And a lot thinner than the yarn I was just using. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let me just get my situation situated. And then we can move on from here. I do have a tutorial for corner to corner on my channel. I have this older tutorial, right? I did a second tutorial just for the members, but the first one is well over a year old, and many viewers say, Juan, do not take that tutorial down. And I have to tell you guys, that is one of the tutorials that I want to redo so badly, just because I'm more structured with my tutorials now as opposed to how I was before. Before, it was like we were just having a conversation. It was almost like you were sitting next to me and I was just showing you how to do the corner to corner. But I really wasn't, I guess, fluent with the verbiage. I was calling the crochet hooks needles. I mean, the gestures and the motions were all correct, but my words were wrong. I said a lot, and nowadays it's very minimal that you would hear me say like or mispronounce what these tools are. I watched it back recently and I cringed and I said, you know, I have to take this down. But every time I mention doing it, I get a lot of people that say, please don't take that down. It actually was the thing that helped connect the dots to get me to do the corner to corner. And to that I say, how can I take it down? Like, even if I wanted to, if you came to me and said, what you did right there was the thing that connected the dots, so please don't take that down. I mean, as imperfect as it is, like, I feel like I can't take it down, but there's so much wrong with it. So what would you guys do? I mean, I don't really think it's broken, but it can definitely be improved. But so many people are like, Juan, please don't take it down. So like, what gives? At what point do you say, I know you don't want me to take it down, but I want to take what's there and make it better? I don't know. Sound off in the comments. Tell me what you think I should do. I've left it there. It's still there. I'm wearing this weird, it's not weird, but I'm wearing this beanie with this corner to corner. It's like green, white, and purple. I keep telling myself I need to change the thumbnail too. It's an older thumbnail. I don't know. I may just redo it anyway. I'm not sure. Tell me what... I'm going back and forth. I just can't make up my mind. I'm like, should I just let the people speak and tell me what they want, or just do it because, you know, you've improved? And I'm going to give myself that. Like, I have improved with the way I do tutorials. I'm very structured. I make sure to be very consistent with my verbiage and all of that. I think if I'm going to critique myself on my tutorials now, it's literally very minuscule things, like the volume could be a little higher, or I could speak a little louder. It's literally that. Before, it was the angles of the camera, using the correct words for the actual things that you're talking about. You know, I started from scratch, you know, so all I knew is I wanted to show people how to do what I do and what I was shown from my grandmother and my aunt. Like, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to come on here, enjoy the craft, and show people what I know. And in doing that, I had no idea that there were all of these intricate things that you had to learn and master in order to be good at that part. Because, you know, me, at first coming on, I'm like, well, it doesn't really matter if I'm just showing them what I know. Who cares if I say a lot? Or who cares if I mispronounce a crochet hook and call it a needle? But all of that matters to people when they don't know what you're talking about. And I didn't know that at the time, you know? Because if you're teaching someone new to crochet the wrong things, you're setting them up for failure. And I know that now. Whereas before, I'm like, it doesn't really matter, you know? If it's wrong, they'll eventually get it. And I know that's not how it should be. So in that way, I've grown immensely. So, you know, all the details matter. Pronouncing the tools correctly matters, you know? So, yeah. I say all that to say that I have a tutorial out there that's got some imperfect things in there. And for some odd reason, people love that tutorial. I don't know. So, yes. I'm going to hear what you guys have to say, and then I'm going to sit on that and marinate in it, and then ultimately make a decision. Because I do have to tell you that my Yarn Addict Stitch Academy is being reworked. I am taking those stitches that are in there and I am reworking them. I am improving all of it. Like my verbiage, the camera angles, the swatches, the colors, the thumbnails, everything. I'm changing it all. And it's just because I want it streamlined. I want whoever goes into that playlist to be able to see that everything is smooth as butter, top to bottom. The thumbnails look identical. It looks like it belongs there. Yeah, so stay tuned. It's a work in progress. And the way I'm looking at it is one at a time, because I'm loading new stitches in as we speak. But then I'm also going to take a minute and pull one of the old ones, redo it, and post it back up, you know? And for me, it doesn't even matter what the views are on those videos. To me, that's what I call planting an evergreen tree. You know, if you do it the right way, and I'm learning this now. So if you do the tutorial the right way, as best as you can, right? And you put it out there, it may not get any views right away. It may just get a few views. But in time, you know, all the drive-bys on that tutorial, it will accumulate views over time. And that's kind of how I'm thinking of it. Like, just do the best that you can, post that tutorial, don't worry about the views, just let it be there for the people who, you know, may come across it. You know, they may do a search and say, how do I do that alpine stitch? And my tutorial may or may not come up, but if it does, they can pay my tutorial a visit. And it just might be the thing that connects the dots for them, like the C to C. So, you know. And with that, I'm saying there is no schedule. Like, I tried putting myself on a schedule with my stitch tutorials. That did not work. So the way I'm doing it now is whenever it's done is when I'm just going to go ahead and post it. I'm not really counting on it for views. It's just there as a learning tool for the viewers. So if there is a stitch that you would like me to do, just sound off in the comments and I will put it on my list. I do have a growing list, and thank you in advance to you guys who are reaching out to me with stitch suggestions, because what I want is a comprehensive list of as many stitches as possible all in one place on my channel for my viewers. So whatever stitch you're not seeing in that Stitch Academy, it will eventually be there in time, you know? There's tons and tons and tons of stitches that I want to get on there. I also want to do different kinds of stitches, like stitch combos. And that suggestion actually came to me from the members. They were like, instead of just doing stitches, which is great, do stitch combos. Pull this stitch and this stitch, put it together and show us what it looks like. Show us what the stitch count is and, you know, all the things. So I do have my work cut out for me, but I think it's going to be great. And I do have a few other plans with the Stitch Academy as well. So stay tuned for all of that. Very excited. And honestly, I look forward to waking up extra early in the morning, because that's when I do it. I make sure that the air conditioner is off, and with how the heat has been, the only time that I can really record those tutorials is like early in the morning before work. So I come in here, I gather my tools and things, and then I go to the tutorial table, I sit there, I record the tutorial, and then I do all the things behind the scenes, like the editing and everything, while I'm at work during break. So when it's done, then it gets posted. So there is that. And I like my little process, you know. Someday I will be able to master navigating all the things without having to stop everything else, because I'm that person. I'm like, okay, I can't do anything else right now. I have to make sure that this video goes to the right playlist, that the description details are accurate, they're correct. And even with me doing all that, I still miss a thing or two. I get a few of you guys reaching out to me like, hey Juan, you have this left-handed tutorial in the right-handed playlist. Is it supposed to be like that? I'm like, no, I clicked the wrong button. My big fingers, yep, went too far. So yeah, It happens, and at this point, I just laugh at it. I'm like, life is too short to be upset over the small little minuscule details that could be easily corrected. Like, I checked the wrong box. Fine. You see it, let's fix it, put it in the right thing, and let's just move on, you know? So, I love that for me. Oh, it's so nice not getting stressed out about simple things like that anymore. I just decided to find my inner Elsa and just let it go. And when I discovered that and how that all goes, life is just so much nicer. It really is. So, yep, me and Elsa are besties. She's taught me many things about just letting things go, and I'm just so happy about it. Especially things like yarn choice or decisions about projects. Like, the other day, I was sitting here stressed beyond belief for a very small second about whether or not I should release one pattern or the other pattern. Like, I had two completed patterns and I just could not decide. And I said, Juan, why are you stressing yourself out over this? Both of these are going to be released. Pick one. And whichever one doesn't get picked will go next. And then once I came to that realization, I then said, Juan, why are you so stressed out about this? It was so easy, you know? The stuff that I stress myself out about is just ridiculous sometimes. And it's so like easy. And I go back and I look and I'm like, there was no need to be stressed out about that. So anyway, loving how that's looking. The brown, the pumpkin, and the white. And we still continue. This yarn is thinner than I thought it was. It's still a 4-weight, but it's a thin 4, which we still have a bunch of yarn on this little ball here. It's fine. It's getting used up, so that's all that matters. I did use this yarn for my hexagons, so it's not like I need it for hexagons. So I'm free to use the rest of this yarn for this project, which I'm very happy about. So I've made the decision to not cut. I mentioned this before. I mentioned that I possibly would only do like a row or a row and a half of each color before changing. I'm not doing that. I'm going to just put the yarn on the blanket and crochet it so that we can paint our picture. We're going to have some thick stripes. We're going to have some thin stripes. We're going to have all the stripes. We're going to have all the stripes here. I love that for us. So, yeah. Anyway, I do have to tell you guys that I am a little nervous about Thursday. So today is Monday and Thursday is my birthday. And I mentioned this before, I will be 46 years old. And I know to some it may not seem like a big deal, but for me, it's huge because I'm starting to feel like that whole midlife crisis thing. I'm feeling it, and I feel like it's not going to go away for a few years. Like, I feel it. I feel like I'm going to need to figure out a way to cope through this, and I'm sure that in a few years, I'm going to look back and say, Juan, you're being completely ridiculous. Calm down. Be Elsa. But my reality right now is, Juan, you're going to be 46 years old. That's like almost 50. And, you know, it's all downhill from here. You know, I still feel like there's so much life left in me to live. And yet at the same time, I look back and say to myself, wow, Juan, you've been on this earth for 46 years. That's a long time to be on this earth. Oh. So yeah, I mean, I'm going through all the things. So if any of you guys out there could offer some advice to someone who is approaching that midlife crisis mentality, I would really appreciate it, because sometimes, and not always, but sometimes Elsa cannot be the end all be all. Sometimes you just can't let it go until you process it. I need to unpack this. I need to figure out like how I'm going to be able to manage getting through the late 40s into the 50s. I don't know if there's like a formula for it. I don't know if it's just something that I'm just going to have to deal with and move past it. I'm not sure. So if there's anyone out there that could offer advice, I would greatly appreciate that. Yes. I don't know how we got to that. We went from this corner to corner to midlife crisis. How do we do that? Every now and then, like, we get into these conversations and like we start here and then now we're in left field all the way over there and we got to reel it back. So I can't figure out how to do that. So we're just going to jump subjects. Oh. So I mentioned that I was going to be bringing some new WIPs, works in progress, on the next podcast episode. That being said, I'm wondering if you guys have any idea as to what these new WIPs are. Like, I will say that I have mentioned wanting to do these WIPs. I did talk about it. And I'm just wondering if any of you guys have picked up what I've been putting down, because, you know, when you go to see them, you'll be like, oh, okay, I remember he did talk about that. So yeah, very curious if anyone knows what I'm going to be doing or what I'm going to be bringing to the channel. And just so that you know, I don't think, let me think, hold on. No, these are new WIPs. Like, I've never done, this is not a repeat WIP. So it's not another 2-bit granny. It's not another moss stitch in the rounds. It's not any of those. So yes, good luck if you're able to guess. If not, that's okay too. No big deal. You guys will eventually see it. Tomorrow is Taco Tuesday. I'm very excited about that because a viewer of the channel sent me a uniform to wear, something that I could wear on Taco Tuesdays, and I can't wait to share that with you guys. I think you guys have already seen it, but you haven't seen it on me. So yes, and we have the mascot, we have the Mr. Taco, so can't wait to show you guys him, just in case you guys haven't seen him. Where is it? There it is. So I'm just going to finish this stitch, or these stitches right here, and then I'm going to call it for this session of WIPn It with Juan. 1, 2, and 3. Now I'm wondering, do I change color in the middle of the rows with this one? Let me see. Yes, I do. Okay. So I'm going to continue going off camera after this and finish this. And then the next time we bring this project back on for WIPn It with Juan, we will start with a new color. All right. So I hope you really enjoyed this session of WIPn It with Juan. Thank you so much for being my crochet buddy. You know, like yourself, I need one as well. And so you are my makeshift crochet buddy. So thank you for keeping me company. So if you enjoyed this, please hit the like button. Consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. And then, of course, leave a comment or two. Answer some of the questions. I'd really appreciate the support. So that is all from me for now. And until the next one, take care. Bye.